Hey everybody, this is Craig from 9 Volt Games, and today I want to talk about why video game movies suck so much. Why do they suck? See, I got two sons. Obviously, I have a daughter, but she feigns no interest in it because she's 2. But my sons have recently got into what kind of video game movies are out there. What are we going to see? Because they saw Sonic, and Sonic was, in my opinion, Sonic was great. What happens is a lot of people are failing to realize that that Sonic movie was made for kids. And as far as a family movie goes, I thought it was great. All right. Obviously, they made some story when it comes to Sonic Adventure and all that stuff. It was bare bones story. And then there was a lot of hidden shit in 1 through 3. So they kind of had free reign with it. All right. And then my son, Logan, my 5-year-old son, Rampage is the only movie that he will sit through the entirety of it through with me. And Rampage wasn't bad because, again, bare bones story. They kind of had a lot of free will with it. Well, what happens when you make a movie that actually has a story and you still take your liberties? Well, then you get things like, I don't know, Super Mario Brothers. You get things like Double Dragon. You get things like Street Fighter and Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. You get things like Resident Evil, fucking Doom, and then Doom Annihilation, which I'm not even going to talk about this in here. I'm not going to talk about the Uwe Boll movies. I always say Wee Boll, but apparently that's not how you pronounce his name. Because his movies are just made to suck. So I was streaming last night. I've had this video in my heart for a while. But recently is when my sons were like, this is how it started. My oldest son, he'll sit through movies. My younger son, like I said, he'll get up a half hour through a movie and he'll go play with Legos and then come back and revisit it, blah, blah, blah. My older son saw that Resident Evil was on Netflix, so we watched Resident Evil. My oldest son watched me play Nemesis, and he saw Nemesis in the picture for Resident Evil Apocalypse. So obviously he wanted to see that, and he wasn't impressed. So he is asking me, what other movies are out there? Well, we cleared all the Resident Evils. They're bad. I don't know. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And he saw Silent Hill Revelations on there. He's like, can we watch that? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, because it's not appropriate? I was like, no, but it's one of the worst movies ever made. Forget video game movies. Silent Hill Revelations is one of the most god-awful movies ever made. So last week, I get him. He comes to my house, and he goes, hey, Dad, I heard there's a Super Mario movie. And I was like, boy, that's awful. It's an awful movie. And then he's like, well, maybe it could be good. And I said, here's the deal. I said, it's Super Mario Brothers in name only. He goes, what's that mean? I was like, it's live action. There's Mushroom Kingdom, not the way you see it. Bowser's a human. Goombas are like 8 feet tall. Koopa Troopers are like 8 feet tall. They got tiny heads. It doesn't match up, blah, blah, blah. He kept talking about it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to see if I can rent it on Amazon. And the DVD was only $3.99. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just buy it, right? So I bought it. He came here, we watched it, and my son was like, that was awful. But I saw it as a kid, and I was like, this was awful. And then I watched it as an adult, and I said, you know what? If they removed all the Mario references, that movie could have been named anything else. You could have just strictly made it about dinosaurs and dimension splitting when the asteroid hit. And that movie might have actually been pretty good. Mario Brothers is so bad now that I think it's actually good. It might actually be a masterpiece. It was really good, especially if you watch a documentary on all the stuff that happened behind the scenes. I'm surprised that movie even got made. People were drunk. John Leguizamo was driving around drunk. Bob Hoskins got hurt. It was a whole ordeal. And Dennis Hopper, I guess Dennis Hopper, when I was a kid, was the ultimate bad guy in movies. It was either him or like Gary Busey. They played their spots. So like if they named it anything else, I think that movie would have actually been good. But here's what I said in response to Gary, because he started talking about it in my stream last night. And he asked me what I thought about the Hitman films, because I was streaming Hitman Absolution. I said, they're awful. So Max Payne was awful. And he said, so Doom's your favorite? I said, Doom was awful. And then it kind of clicked with me, like, because I had this video for a while, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to say. Is why are these movies so terrible? So here's what I said. He asked me if I like Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I like the 1995 Mortal Kombat. I don't like Annihilation. Annihilation was horrible. Should have went straight to video, and then nobody should have ever saw it. The movie should have never been made. If you write a script and the people from the previous movie don't want to be attached to it, don't do it. You know what I mean? Because they had to recast Raiden and they had to recast Johnny Cage. And it was just, that movie was terrible. So let's go in line. Here's why it's so terrible, and here's why Mortal Kombat gave the illusion that it was actually good. We got Super Mario Brothers, trash. We got, for a video game movie, trash. We got Double Dragon, trash. We got Street Fighter, trash. I mean, I guess you can go back and watch it now, and it's one of those so bad it's good. Like, if you're going in, you're like, all right, it's camp, like, you're prepared for it. But when I was a kid, I was like, these are my video games that I love to play coming out in theaters. And you're like, that has nothing to do with the game. That's so bad. And why does Guile not sound American? He's like the most American thing in Street Fighter. Anyways, so we got those movies back to back, right? And then Mortal Kombat came out. And Mortal Kombat was done just well enough that by comparison to the previous 3 that we got, Mortal Kombat was good. It set the standard. But that was also, it was good, but it was bad. The acting in it was good. Cary Tagawa, he is the embodiment of Shang Tsung. He is Shang Tsung. So much so, obviously, that they brought him back for Aftermath. I was friends with him on Twitter. We communicated to each other. And that shit was, like, awesome to me. Because he's not a huge star, but in my realm of things, and most gamers' realm of things, he's a big star. He's, you know, if you think of Shang Tsung, you think of that guy. So certain aspects of that were done so well. But they also had to go for that PG-13 rating. And that's what killed it. Right? So if you go back and watch it now, like, my son, Logan, loves Mortal Kombat. But obviously, if there was a rated R, like the new one that's coming out, I'm not going to let him watch. It's rated R. They flat out said they're going to have fatalities in it. Even though I did let him watch Scorpion's Revenge. But that's also a cartoon. But with realistic, with real people and the violence, I don't think it's a good idea. I have to do some responsible parenting. But Mortal Kombat 1995 is safe enough. I mean, there's barely any blood in it. But that's the point. That's not, Mortal Kombat was known for blood and fatalities. It helped, you know, it was one of the main headlining games that helped form the ESRB. That shit was a Supreme Court case. It didn't have what was supposed to be in it. And here's the problem. The story and the lore, even though Mortal Kombat's been retconned, they carry some of that as canon in the series. MKX, when you fight Goro versus Johnny Cage, they reference the movies. Mortal Kombat Aftermath, when you fight Shiva and Johnny Cage, they also reference the Goro and Johnny Cage fight. So they actually reference it twice. Once about his glasses and once again about punching him in the dick, which I thought was hilarious. But they carry that stuff up. And they kind of have to because it's the same Shang Tsung. But if you see what liberties Paul Andreessen took when he made Mortal Kombat, like I said, comparatively it was good to the other movies we had gotten up until that point. He carried that on into Resident Evil, and he said, I can take liberties, and he put Alice in Resident Evil. And Alice is never acknowledged in the games. They made Jill a background character in Apocalypse. So why did they keep making them this way when none of us are happy with them? They take the liberties to try and make it appeal to non-gamers, which I could see was kind of a thing when they did Super Mario Brothers, because like, how are we going to get parents to want to take their kids and sit through this? You know what I mean? They did that with Street Fighter. They even did that with Mortal Kombat. How are we going to get parents to actually want to see this and spend their money and take their kids to see it in theaters? By the time Resident Evil hit, video games were mainstream. They could have made it directly off of the first Resident Evil game. They could have done it line for line, and it would have been perfect. You know why? Because you can beat Resident Evil 1 in 3 hours. So that means the actual story was less than 2 hours. You could have made that. I don't know why he didn't do it. And the problem is we keep throwing our money at these people because we think that's the best we're going to get. Silent Hill. Actually, let me do Doom first. Right? Doom came first. I went and saw Doom in theaters 3 times. 3 times. I didn't like it. But I wanted to give them my money because at the time my brain said they're at least taking the effort to take this IP and make a game into a movie. So if I keep giving them money, they'll keep attempting, and then eventually they'll get it right. And I carried that on when Silent Hill was made. Silent Hill is obvious. They messed up so many things, but they also got some things right. All right? I don't know what changing it from Harry Mason to Sharon was. You know what I mean? Wait, was that her name? Why can't I think of it? Rose. Sorry. Rose. Rose was the mom. Changing it from the father to the mother, I don't know why. Maybe they thought that audiences and like moviegoers and the average one would see more of a connection between a mother and a daughter. Although, we do things in our life like father-daughter dances and, daddy's girl and all that thing. Like the connection, I have a daughter. The connection between a father and a daughter is not saying it's more than what a mother's connection is to the daughter. But that's just like an established thing. And I feel like that's why they did that in Silent Hill 1. Where they had the mother die and Harry ended up having to take care of Cheryl, whereas instead of having Harry die and have the mother take care of Cheryl, it's that bond between father and daughter. They ruined that right in the beginning of the movie. They had the father there, but he was just background noise. And what they try to do is make it like a lead-in. Okay. Someone in the parking lot. They try to do like a lead-in to where he would be James Sunderland, and I didn't fucking like that. I hated that so much, and they continued that on in Revelations. So we can remember Silent Hill 1 fondly, even though they abused the usage of Pyramid Head. They changed his design, they changed the story where they tried to meld 1 and 2 together, trying to keep the cult, but also trying to keep the punishment of yourself. And they tried to mash it together, and it didn't fit. That's why Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2, the games, were so vastly different. And they had to go back and re-include the cult as like the mainstay to make Silent Hill 3 work. So I guess like I was upset that they used Pyramid Head outside of James because of his attachment to James. But they did handle him well enough where he couldn't be super offended. He wasn't overtly violent in the games. He did things only for shock, to shock you, the player, but also to shock James. The raping of the mannequin, the killing of Maria over and over. It wasn't overtly like he wasn't violent. He wasn't ripping things in half and blah blah blah. And in the movie, he ripped Anna's skin off and threw it at the church. But that was really the only violent act that he did in the movie, and it was for shock. He ripped a cult goer's skin off and he threw it at their church. So I felt like they did that properly, but again, they shouldn't have used them in that way. And then they totally overused them in Revelations. Revelations was fucking awful. Revelations had a set-in-stone story. They even got a girl who looked like Heather. I thought when I saw the previews for it, I was like, they're going to nail this. And they did such a horrible job. And that's because the original director, Chris Gans, was not involved in Revelations. And that's what happened. And now he wants to come back and make another Silent Hill. I don't know. If he takes fans' things into account, that would be great. I really hope they don't touch Restless Dreams. I think Silent Hill 2, as much as I would love to see it in theaters, I don't think it should ever be done in theaters. But now let's go back to Resident Evil. Resident Evil is like one of the highest grossing series. Resident Evil made a shit ton of money. Who's going to watch these movies? Every gamer I know does not like Resident Evil. Every casual gamer I know that was friends of mine back when Resident Evil was like a thing in theaters and it was big, it was making a lot of money. Like I always reference my friend Rob. He played World of Warcraft, right? And then he occasionally played Resident Evil. So he went to see the movies and he felt like he was being filled in on the backstory of the movies, and it was just pieces. It was little pieces. They didn't do the mansion properly. The mansion was a backdrop of the first movie. They didn't do Nemesis properly. Nemesis was supposed to be, for Jill, and I was kind of like felt slapped in the face. I'm saying this because I just watched Apocalypse recently. It was like a slap in the face that they had one guy controlling Nemesis, and he was like, focus on stars. And then he let Mike Epps' character go. I was like, no, because even if they're in the way in the game, Nemesis would thrash through zombies just to get to you. So I felt like they really took away from the series. But again, I didn't pay to go see those movies in theaters past Apocalypse because I was so fucking offended. So I watch them on Netflix because I pay for a Netflix subscription and my kids want to see it. My kids like those movies. Resident Evil movies were made for children. We're not even going to talk about the treatment of Wesker. No way. So Resident Evil, you could say, was made for like teens. Maybe they enjoyed it. Maybe they liked it. It wasn't super violent, but they liked violence, and zombies were a big thing, and they continued to be a big thing in that time frame. So I guess I could see it coming from that, or like I said, casual gamers who feel like they're being filled in on the story without playing the games. But they weren't good. But the problem is Resident Evil as a series is why these movies still suck. Is because they can change so much about it and people are still throwing their money at it. Doom is another one where I said I threw my money at and didn't go back. Doom did one thing that was, it took me a while to realize it, but it was kind of a slap in the face. All right? Doom took its own liberties. And they kind of meshed like the original, like, oh my God, hell's coming through, and transforming people into monsters. So they took like bits of Doom 1 and 2, but they mixed it with Doom 3. And the part that everybody talks about and liked was the first person part. And it sucks because the first person part was cool, but they couldn't do a whole movie that way. And then Hardcore Henry came out and people liked that shit. I bet you the people who were making Doom were like, fuck, we could have done this entire movie in first person. But the thing that was kind of offensive about that first person part is it was a small, like 5-minute window of the movie. And it's like they threw the people who played the games and came to see that a bone. So it's like, no, you're not supposed to just throw in a 5-minute segment that the gamers would appreciate. You're thinking about us, the people who are probably going to give you the most money at the time. You're thinking about us for a 5-minute span, and you're trying to build a story to pull other people in. And I took that as like a slap in the face because I was like, you're only thinking about the actual gamers who made these properties big enough that you were like, I'm going to make a movie and I'm going to make a fuck ton of money. And then you just push us to the side until the end of the movie. That was irritating. And they didn't even do that right. Now I think about it. They should have had him open up like a black case and pull something out and be like, oh my God, this is a berserker. You know what I mean? And they went fucking nuts. That would have been awesome, but they didn't do that. Not going to talk about Doom Annihilation. And then someone said something about Assassin's Creed, but I'm at the point now where I didn't see the new Tomb Raider. I didn't see the new Assassin's Creed. And I probably, at this point going forward, unless I hear some like crazy buzz about it, unless it's a kid's like family movie like Sonic was, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch one of these movies. And my $16, or if I was going to take my kid, you know what I mean, my $40, my $50 is not going to hurt them. But when people are like, we need to boycott this so they change it, you're not boycotting it. They're making a shit ton of money and they don't care about yours. The thing that made me actually want to see Sonic is they put out that first trailer and everybody went, ugh, look at Sonic. What the fuck is that? And the company behind it delayed the movie to go back and they took a hit. I don't even remember the amount of money it was, but it was a ridiculous amount, millions, to change the design of Sonic in the movies. And they sacrificed some of the quality of the movie. That whole point where he had the bomb on his hand and he couldn't get it off, and the simple solution would be like, take your glove off and throw it. His original design didn't have gloves. So, I mean, that part didn't make sense. But I still appreciated that they listened to the fans and they went back and they modified something. And that tells me that company, that director, those producers, the CGI artists, they actually want to put care into it. And they want to put people in the seats not because they just want to make money. They want us to be happy with it because they're going to make money. Now they're making Sonic 2. They officially announced Sonic 2. I can't wait to go see that shit. I'm excited. I hope the world's back to normal and movie theaters are filling seats again. I can't wait to take my kids to go see that. I'm excited about that. But that, again, that's also a family movie. I'm really looking forward to the new Mortal Kombat because they hired actual martial artists. James Wan is on board. He's not in the director's chair, but he's on board. And it's going to have a hard R rating. Well, I'm a huge fan of Saw. I'm a huge fan of James Wan in general. So I know that with his final approval and NetherRealm's involvement, it's not going to be that bad. Because NetherRealm already had one horrible movie, and it was Annihilation. Mortal Kombat Annihilation was so bad. They're not going to let that happen again. Mortal Kombat stumbled really hard in the 2000s and then finally got back up to where it is. So, also, I'm talking about movies, and I just got a text from Scott, and we're talking about doing a movie channel. But, anyways, yeah, what was I saying? I'm excited about some of these movies coming up, but I'm also wary about them. You know what I mean? Like Hitman. I saw Hitman in theaters. I saw Max Payne in theaters. I saw the newer Hitman in theaters. I watched the original Tomb Raiders in theaters. I can't do that stuff anymore. They're bad. They don't have anything to do with the games. The one thing, I heard somebody else say this, so this thought is not an original thought. I just don't remember who said it. The problem is they can't find a connect between the players and the movies. And it's because you invest so much time as a player into a character that you feel like the character is you. You know what I mean? They couldn't go out and make a Half-Life movie and make it good. Gordon Freeman doesn't talk. When you play the game, you are Gordon Freeman. How are you going to make a movie with Half-Life? They're not making one, but how are you going to make a movie for Half-Life and have the viewer have that same kind of connection to the main character? Well, you need good writers, and I don't feel like they have good writers. Even something like God of War, okay? So obviously they have interest in making God of War. They have interest in making Last of Us. It's a series. It's going to be a series, which is awesome. That's the way they should do it, because Last of Us is a long story. But Last of Us was so effective because it was you controlling the characters. So things didn't just happen to Joel and Ellie. They happened to you. That's why it was so effective. So I'm hoping that if they have the right amount of writers or the right type of writers in there to put that same emotional connection onto a character that you're watching and not controlling, then that's when video game movies or series will start to be so effective. I like The Witcher. I think they did a great job with The Witcher. The problem with The Witcher is The Witcher was a book series before it was a game. So they have a lot of source to pull from. And I think, like I heard someone say that I know, that The Witcher was a great video game adaptation. They should do all the movies like that. You can't. It's a book series. So, and that's why I give a pass to Pokemon, because Pokemon in the anime, the game and the anime came out in conjunction with each other. So again, like they're not pulling the movies from the games, they're pulling the movies from the anime. Detective Pikachu, I didn't see. It's been played in my house several times. I won't sit down and watch it. But yeah, so that's my thoughts about it. They don't want to put the effort into finding a way to connect the viewer to the protagonist the same way that they can do when they're world building with like Marvel and stuff, because they have to do that. They have to do that. When they want a giant franchise, they have to do that. So with these one-shot movies like Hitman and Tomb Raider at first when it came out was one shot. Resident Evil, I'm sure, was one shot. They don't want to put up the money and put the effort towards that. And video game companies need to do that. They need to find people who care about the source material. And video games are so mainstream now that I'm surprised it's not more commonplace. I'm kind of hoping that Sonic lit a fire under some of these people's asses and was like, hey, look at the return that we get. Look at the positive feedback that we get when we listen to the players of the games instead of just trying to net the biggest audience that we can. So I hope from that point going forward, that's the way it's going to be. And before the Sonic thing even happened, it seemed like they're doing that with Mortal Kombat. But we're going to get another shitty movie in between. Stop giving your money to the bad movies. And I know it's hard because you're like, Craig, how do we know it's a bad movie until we see it? You can tell now. We can all tell. People here's one thing I've always done with movies, but I used to be a bigger movie buff than I am now. But I get familiar with directors. Who's in what director's chair? You know what I mean? Who's in what chair? Who's doing what? Who's the writers? I get familiar with these names because it's the same thing with video games. Do that research, because if you see somebody and you're like, I don't know who this person is, well, there's a chance they can fuck it up, but there's a chance they can make it good. But if you look at somebody's writing credits and everything that they have is terrible, like, oh my God, this guy wrote for The Room, which I know Tommy Wiseau wrote everything, but let's say you know, he wrote for this terrible movie and this terrible movie and this terrible movie, and they signed him on to write this. I don't think I'm going to see that. I guess it's, if you don't want video game movies to suck, stop giving them your money unless you know it's going to be a good thing or it's something you want to invest in. Like I said, like Sonic, whether you like the movie or not, at least they're putting the heart and effort into it and trying to adhere to a story. Rampage. I didn't say anything about Rampage. I liked Rampage. I know it wasn't a good movie, but sometimes also, if it's a movie like Rampage, if they made a fucking Pac-Man movie, there's no source really to pull from. There's not 2 hours worth of material to pull from. Sometimes you just got to go into a movie and be like, this is going to suck, but it's going to be, you know, ridiculous action, shut your mind off. But if it's a movie that you need to think about, like Resident Evil, you can't do that. Hopefully, Hollywood finds balance in between. Hopefully, you stuck around for this entire video. I'm not sure if I made any points, but thank you guys for watching. And if you did stick around and you're a regular viewer of my channel, my 10-year anniversary video got a lot bigger than I expected. So I actually got to do some work on it, voiceover work and stuff. So it will be coming. I am working on it. I recited the whole thing to myself on a nice drive today in my car and probably look crazy to anybody else who was out in the road around me. But thank you guys for watching. Hope everyone has a great day. Stay safe. Stay safe. I'm not editing this. Okay, bye.